Hello once again. Well, everybody, it's finally time, and I'm nervous about it, but in today's video, we are going to be switching out the motherboard in my main PC. The original Asus P6T motherboard from 2010 is getting switched out for an Asus X99 Deluxe 2, which is a motherboard from 2015, I think. And not only that, in addition to the motherboard, I've got another new component that we're going to be putting in this computer today. You'll see that in a few moments. So yeah, I'm nervous. I've done my due diligence. Everything is backed up. Everything on Greg, my 1TB RAID array, has been backed up. Everything's been backed up twice, actually. I backed up everything onto a 1TB 2.5-inch drive I've got, which is in there. And then just to be extra safe, because I think that 1TB drive's got a few bad sectors on it, I backed up everything a second time to across two 500 gig 2.5-inch drives. So I've prepared very well for this, at least in the realm of getting all my data backed up. I'm sure once I get this thing turned off and start tearing it apart, that it's going to be like, oh crap, I don't have this piece of hardware, or I don't have this cable, or so yeah, that's it. I did a ton of data cleanup. I deleted probably a couple hundred gigabytes of stuff, including dozens and dozens of photos of me and my ex, which I didn't know that I still had. It felt really good to delete that stuff. Sort of felt a bit freeing, if you will. But anyhow, for the last time, let's shut this thing down, and the next time we turn it on will hopefully be with a new motherboard in it. And actually, just to make myself less nervous, I'm going to switch over to the Mac Mini, and that'll keep me calm knowing I have another desktop computer that I can use if things go horribly awry. Oh yeah, I'm in the middle of editing a TV show. Alright, computer's turned off. Let me yank it out of there, and we'll start the process. So, first of all, let's talk about this new motherboard we got going on here. So this is an Asus X99 Deluxe 2. I think it's from 2015. And this was part of the lot of stuff that I bought from 93 Shadow, a longtime viewer. And this motherboard's crazy. I don't even know where the heck to begin. X99 was a very high-end. It was like the highest-end consumer slash workstation type socket of the time. This thing has just a ton of I/O. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 PCI Express slots. You got the heatsink over the chipset there. Well, let's just look at the box and see what all we got going on. Intel X99 chipset. Supports Intel Core Series processors. It's an LGA 2011 V3. NVIDIA SLI ready. AMD Crossfire ready. DTS Studio Sound, whatever that means. It's Windows 10 ready, which is good, because the Asus P6T is a Windows 7 era motherboard that's pretty much just hobbling along with Windows 10 in terms of hardware support. Aura RGB lighting. I have not looked up what this means, but I'm guessing that it means this motherboard has like a pseudo standard connection for case lighting? Maybe? I don't know. This is there's so much stuff on this motherboard that's way over my head. I'm used to playing with 486s, man. This is just a totally different realm. So this was sold as a not as a workstation class board like the Asus P6T, but a very high-end consumer board. See if there's a date on here. This sticker says USB 3.1, PCI Express 3.0, DDR4 RAM, Dual gigabit LAN. Yeah, this thing has 2 Ethernet ports on it. Why? What? How would you use this? For bridging purposes? Like one goes to your internet and then you can hook one into another computer or something? I can't even begin to know. UEFI BIOS. Ooh, this will be my first desktop motherboard with UEFI. Only several years too late for me. Windows 10 ready. Doesn't have a date code on it. I'm sure we'll find one somewhere though. Then on the back, USB BIOS flashback, dual LAN, 3 USB 3.1 Type A ports. I didn't even know there was a 3.1. I thought the latest was still 3.0. It's got a USB-C port? Holy cow! This is too good for me. Digi Plus power control, whatever that means. And this apparently has, like, a non-standard, what they call an overclock socket. Whatever that means, I guess it's supposed to, like, make power going to the CPU more reliable for overclocking. DDR4 3333 support, 32 gigabit per second M2. This thing has an onboard M2 slot for storage. I won't be using it in this build, but we've got it. Dual 32 gigabit per second U2 ports. I don't even know. I have no idea what that is. Asus safe slot. Don't know what that is either. This thing has onboard Wi-Fi. If I remember right, it's 802.11ac, which is really cool. 4 PCI Express 3.0 Gen 3, three-way SLI. Holy shoot! My God! Crystal Sound 3, power pre-regulator, top-notch audio profile, audio shielding, D-pop circuit, audio amplifier, separate layers for left and right track. Oh my God. Premium Japan-made audio capacitors. Wow! And then here's all the fine print. I know it's standard definition. You might have a hard time reading this, but it says Intel Core i7 X series processors on LGA 2011 V3 socket. X99 chipset, 8 RAM slots, 128 gigabytes maximum, non-ECC, unbuffered memory, 4 PCI Express 3.0/2.0 X16 slots, PCI Express 2.0 X16 slot. Wait, that doesn't make sense. So it's got 4 PCI Express 3.0 slots, X16, and then just one slot that's still X16, but it's only PCI Express 2.0. Okay. And then a PCI Express 2.0 X1 slot. Supports NVIDIA 3-way quad GPU SLI technology. There's just way too much stuff for me to read, to wrap my head around. Two U2 ports. Again, whatever that is, I have no idea. PCI Express 3.0 X4, NVMe Express storage. 1 M2 socket. Supports PCI Express storage device only. Oh no, it comes with... Oh yeah, so I've actually been in the box of this thing. This thing came with almost all, if not all, of the accessories that come in the box, including a PCI Express card that gives you another M2 slot. So you get an M2 slot on the motherboard itself, but then a PCI Express M2 slot on this PCI Express card that you get. So you could have 2 M2 drives in this thing. And 10 SATA ports. Holy cow. And then the LAN ports are actually different. One is an Intel i218V and the other's a Intel i211AT. Again, no idea what that means. 802.11 ABGN-AC, 2.4 M5 gigahertz, and Bluetooth 4.0. Oh, this does Bluetooth. That's also cool. Realtek ALC 1150 8-channel high-definition audio codec featuring Crystal Sound 3. Wow. I do not... You guys probably know way more about what that means, what all that means than I do. What else do we got? 5-way optimization, 1-click overclock and cooling, done. Exclusive Asus OC socket. Extra CPU pins. The extra pins are specifically engineered to provide the ultimate performance with stable voltage to your CPU, maximum bandwidth for your CPU, and DDR4 memory. More extreme for okay. Dedicated new fan controller, ultimate cooling and quietness. Geared up with onboard thermal sensors and hardware level 4 3-pin PWM/DC mode detection. This controller ensures every fan achieves the best balance of high cooling performance and low noise. Asus Safe Slot. So what's this mean? Fortified to prevent damage. Oh, it's like reinforced. Fusing with metal into one manufacturing set provides unrivaled structural strength. Fortifies the slot to avoid damage from physical forces to keep graphics card and slot firm. Okay. And then here's the extra, some of the extra stuff it comes with. It comes with this little circuit board that plugs into a Molex, and it just gives you a ton of fan connections. The onboard Wi-Fi, I don't know if it came with the antennas. I don't think it did, but I won't be using the Wi-Fi anyway. And then, oh right, it comes with a freaking Pikachu card. It's got a card that plugs into the PCI Express slot that gives you Pikachu ports. Pikachu 3 actually, which is even better than the Pikachu 2 on my Mac Mini. Yeah, that's nuts. I don't know if I don't think I'll put that in today because I have no use for Pikachu yet. Although I think, yeah, these also provide USB-C ports. But again, I literally have nothing that uses USB-C except that ThinkPad dock that Ava gave me. But, so I don't have use for this card right now. There's already a USB Type-C slot on the motherboard, so we won't be putting in this card today. Alright, so that's the motherboard. Now, I'm a little nervous because when you look at reviews for this motherboard, they're awful. For one reason, people have had horrific reliability with these. So many people bought this motherboard, and then it would just stop working after a few weeks or a few months of use. I didn't realize this because I didn't bother looking it up until I had already bought the thing. Shadow did test this, I believe, so he did bench test it to work. And given that this motherboard is now 7 years old, I would hope that if it was going to have any issues, it would have already had them by now. Although I don't know if this was ever actually used. It is in the box with all the original stuff after all. So this could be completely unused. I'm going to be holding my breath and crossing my fingers that it works okay. If it doesn't, it'll probably be back in with the old motherboard. And unfortunately, due to my own laziness, well, not as much laziness as forgetfulness, I actually have two of this computer. Of course, this computer came from the TV station. It was used in years past, and then it got retired. And when I bounced along, it was given to me. And it's the greatest computer I've ever owned. The station actually has two of these. The second one stayed in service as the community billboard computer. Until just a few months ago when the power supply in it went bad. So that one was given to me as well. Same motherboard, actually that one has an Asus P60WS motherboard, which ditches the floppy controller and the PCI slots. It's all PCI Express. So it's a bit more modern version of the normal P60. But other than that, it's the same. So I've actually got two of these computers, and what I should have done was bring the second one back here. It's in storage at Mom's house to put this motherboard into and make sure it all works out before I tear this one apart. But I don't have it because I'm forgetful, and so I don't want to wait any longer to do this swap, so we're just gonna do it raw dog and hope that everything works. I told you I bought a second component for this thing that we're going to be putting in at the same time as this motherboard. And let me show you that now. It is a brand spanking new power supply. I decided, when you know, when it was getting close for me to say, okay, I really got to do this motherboard swap, I was like, you know what? This thing has an enormous 1200 watt power supply. It's a Sparkle Power Magna 1200. It's 12 years old. And boy, wouldn't I really hate it if that power supply finally decided to put up a huge middle finger and fail, and then take the new motherboard out with it, or take anything out with it. I've been literally scared to, of course, being in the dead of winter, I've started running folding at home on this computer. Great way to keep this apartment warm, literally. This computer uses 550 watts of power running folding at home in its current configuration, and it keeps the place warm. But I'm literally too afraid to go to bed at night with this folding because I'm scared with the extra load on the power supply that it's going to blow. Sparkle Power has not the greatest reputation of reliability, not the most horrible reputation, but not the greatest. And I've actually read anecdotes of people who have told me that the only power supply they ever had violently fail on them was a Sparkle Power. This power supply maybe would never die. It is 12 years old after all, and it's still working. But I decided I did not want to take the chance. And it just so happened that Newegg Canada had a sale on the Seasonic Prime GX750. The Seasonic Prime is apparently one of the absolutely top quality power supplies on the market right now. This power supply normally retails for $250 in Canada. They had it on sale for $100, and I didn't ask questions. I bought one. And I'm glad I did. I think it's a very good idea to retire that Magna 1200, that 12-year-old power supply, and put something new in there. This thing has a 12-year warranty, which is insane. And these are just the absolute best built power supplies on the market right now, according to a lot of people. And I decided that was the good way to go. I think any other part of a computer you can cheap out on and you'll be okay. If it fails, whatever, no big deal. But a power supply is different. If you cheap out on a power supply and it fails, the consequences could be disastrous. It could ruin other components in the computer, or it could damage property outside of the computer. It's not good. So I didn't want to take the chance. I wanted to get a top quality power supply that I would never have to worry about. And if it ever fails, I've got that 12-year warranty. I will be 40 when the warranty on this power supply runs out. So that really spoke to me. So I decided to get this, and we're going to be putting it in this computer today too. We'll retire that Magna 1200. Not sure if I'll keep it or if I'll put it in something. If everything works out here, I may build another computer with the P6T and the Magna 1200 and see if I can sell it online for a couple $100. You know, get a kid his first, gaming rig or whatever to toy around with. Or I may just keep all that stuff as a spare. We'll see. But let's take a look at this power. The box is heavy. This is like twice as heavy as this motherboard box. It's such a heavy power supply inside here. As you can see, it's all saran wrapped. Let me actually, just so we can read the box easier without the reflections getting in the camera. This is part of what caused me to expedite doing this build, because I didn't want to wait too long for Newegg's return period to pass and then put this power supply in and discover that I'm the unluckiest person in the world and got a dud. Wow, this box is so exciting to look at. I'm as excited to put this new power supply in here as I am the new motherboard. Also because the power supply currently in this computer, the fan's going bad. It's once in a while it just starts sounding like the blades are hitting something. I'm assuming it's just a bearing issue though, but I'm gonna have to pull the power supply anyway and deal with whatever's ailing the fan. So that's another reason I decided to just put a new power supply in. So what do we got here? It's 80 plus gold. The Magna 1200 isn't 80 plus at all, so it should be a bit more efficient. GX 750, 750 watts. Once I learned that, you know, in its current configuration, this thing tops out at 550 watts of power, and I figured the X99 motherboard hopefully shouldn't be much more. It might even be less. I figured a 750 was good enough, which works out because that was the one that was on sale. That was also 550 watts of input power, not output power. So if we consider, let's be really generous and consider 85% efficiency, that comes out to about 450, 460 watts output. So this 750 should have no problem at all. Fully modular, which I'm excited about. I've never toyed with a modular power supply. The Magna 1200 is partially modular, but not fully, and I don't have any other cables to use with it. Hybrid fan control. The power supply's got a button on it that you can press if you want the fan to run all the time, or you can press it again and it puts it in a hybrid mode where it will only turn on, the fan will only turn on if once the computer gets, you know, once it has a big enough load on it, which is kind of nice. The Magna 1200 actually has that too. When I first turned the computer on, the fan doesn't turn on yet. First time I ever saw that, I thought the fan was broken. That's how green I am around the gills with all this modern stuff. But it's only a couple of minutes before the fan in that turns on. European Hardware Awards 2017 Best Power Supply Series. That was for the Prime Titanium. European Hardware Awards 2019 Best PSU Series Seasonic Prime TX. So that's the 80 plus titanium one. And there's all the specs there. Comes with all the cables I should need, hopefully. Oh, gee, that's going to be hard to read. High efficiency, 80 plus gold certified. Nice little chart. It reaches peak efficiency at about 50% load. So this thing should actually be kept pretty well in its efficiency band. Because, you know, sitting idle, this computer sitting idle in its current configuration draws about 200 watts of power and peaks at 550. So we'll keep around this part of the band where it's most efficient, which is nice. Premium hybrid fan control. Overall fan noise, lowest possible level. Undisturbed user experience. Industry's first 3-phased thermal control finds perfect balance between silence and cooling through 3 operational stages: fanless, silence, and cooling modes. Users can manually select between Seasonic S² FC fan control without fanless mode and S³ FC fan control including fanless mode, with the help of a selector switch found on the back panel of the power supply. Yep. There's what it looks like. Very nice unit. And there's what it looks like again. Okay, let me put you on a tripod. Let's start this. Let's start doing this. Before we get started, I almost forgot, I'm putting a new SSD in this computer as well. The current one running the show is a 120 gigabyte Intel SSD. It's about 10 years old. I'm replacing it with this Otherworld Computing Mercury Electra 3G. It's a 256 gigabyte, oh no, 240 gigabyte rather, SSD. Is there a date code on this thing? Serial number begins with 15, so it may be 2015. That sounds about right. But 240 gigs, so a lot bigger SSD. It looks awesome. I love the blue color. But also, this says designed and built in the USA, of course it says from domestic and imported parts, which means they probably just packaged it in the USA, but if it's more than that, then that's really cool, an American-made, at least partially American-made SSD. I kind of doubt it went that far though, they probably just packaged it in the USA, but yeah, Otherworld Computing, this is a part that they would have sold to go in a Mac, but obviously it'll work just fine in a PC. Should be good. Alright, I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. And let's start tearing the old girl apart. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention. I'm going to be reusing my Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo cooler. The Fantex cooler that Shadow sold me doesn't have the LGA 2011 hardware, which I didn't realize, and I guess he didn't realize. But also the LGA 2011 hardware that comes with the Cooler Master does not fit the Fantex, so I guess I'm just going to sell the Fantex. I've got no use for it. So we're going to reuse the Cooler Master. I've still got some heatsink compound that came with it, which is Cooler Master Master Gel Pro, I think. And I still have the LGA 2011 hardware in the box. So, with a tear in my eye, we'll start pulling this thing apart and hope that it's not in vain. I really hope that motherboard works and keeps working. Just realized my microphone was pointing backwards, so I've got it pointing front ways now. Out comes the AMD Radeon R9 390X. We will be reusing this. Now, something that occurred to me is I use the FireWire port on this old motherboard for transferring the video from my camcorder through for my YouTube videos, because I have obviously this video's in standard definition. I use a DV camcorder and transfer the video over DV. The new motherboard does not have a FireWire port, and I don't have a PCI Express FireWire card. So luckily I thought of that before beginning to tear this thing all apart. Nope, definitely didn't. I'll deal. I can use the Data Video DN400, my hard drive based DV recorder that I use for videotape transfers. I can use that to get the video off this camcorder. And but I'm gonna have to invest in a PCI Express FireWire card, which I think you can still buy. I hope you can. Oh, I never realized the SSD and the original SSD in this thing is on a carrier. So I can just take out the carrier and then switch the drive. That'll be nice. If I can get the carrier out of there. There we go. Whew, 12-year-old plastic. All right. Oh, something broke. You know, thinking about this build has made me want to get a new case, especially looking at how awesome cases are with tons of great ventilation, which is super important now. This case is like completely devoid of any decent ventilation. So someday I want to get a new case. Oh, come on, get out of there. Ugh. There we go. Oh, it's a Seagate! It's not an Intel. I've never had the SSD out of this thing. I just had a quick look and thought it was a Intel. It's a Seagate Enterprise SATA SSD. 120 gigs. What's the date code on this? 2013, so it's actually not original to this computer unless this computer was built with parts that were a few years old. That's possible. Maybe the station got this computer in 2013. Don't know. Floppy drive's going to come out because the new motherboard does not have a floppy controller. I'll have to start using a USB floppy drive again, which sucks, but it's the way of the willows. In its place, I'll put I've got a USB card reader sitting in the Pentium 4 system. I've got 2 card readers sitting in the Pentium 4 system, so I'll take one of those to put in here. Front panel audio connector, I have no idea if that's going to be compatible with the new motherboard. Not that it matters, I don't use front panel audio because I've got the realistic speaker amplifier as part of my computer setup now. Right, let's just get some cables out of here so I can see what I'm doing. Oh yes, all of the LED and power button connectors, reset button, onboard. This thing has an onboard speaker? Is there a front panel speaker in this thing? I guess there has to be. I've heard it beep before. What else? Motherboard power. And that's the motherboard freed of all its connectors. I'll keep the Cooler Master cooler in there until I get it out. Oh, I've got to switch tapes soon. Alright, here she comes. Oh, got a 4-pin connector hanging on. Oh, 8-pin. Again, used to working with old stuff. Alright, there's the Asus P6T with my Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. Actually, where this only has one fan on it, I wonder if one of the Fantech fans will fit on here. I bet it will, because I've got it actually came with the brackets to add a second fan. So maybe I'll look at robbing one of the fans off the Fantech cooler for this. Alright, there she is. We'll set the motherboard aside and we'll switch out the power supply. Even if things go horribly wrong with the motherboard and I've got to put the old motherboard back in, I still have a new power supply at least. Alright, we'll unplug all the modular connectors. Oh, they're all zip tied together. Convenient. Okay, fine, whatever. Oh, thumb screws. I'll use those. Ooh, thumb screws that are screwed in so tight I gotta use a screwdriver anyway. I shall reuse these thumb screws for the new power supply. It's a sleek looking power supply. Big fan on the bottom here. Super clean look on the back. It does not use an IEC C13 connector. Because this draws so much current at its full load, an IEC C13 power cord is not rated for enough current for this thing. So it uses something different. It's still IEC, but it's a different IEC. Oh no! I see it. Oh, what are we caught on? Come here. Alright. Sparkle Power Magna 1200. How do the capacitors look? I can't see any electrolytics. Of course, when I blow on the fan right now, it doesn't sound like it's catching. But when this thing heats up, it sounds like it's catching on something. I see one electrolytic, not bloated. So this power supply might be perfectly healthy still. Still gonna switch it out because it's 12 years old. See if I can Get the floppy drive out of there. How does the floppy drive come out? Unlock, unlock. Oh, I screwed it in. Because these little plastic toolless lock things work not that good. So I'll take that out. Yay! Sorry, floppy drive. You worked amazing while I could use you. Not anymore. Although you can get USB floppy controllers for an internal USB port though, which is kind of neat. I didn't know that, so maybe I'll invest in one of those someday. Alright, let me shove this over here, and we will unbox the power supply. We'll put that in first. Ooh, where do I start? It looks so nice in this packaging. You almost don't want to open it. Ooh, you're greeted with the Seasonic logo. Oh. Oh. Ooh. What do we got? Oh, it's about COVID-19. Wow. Dear valued customer, thank you for purchasing the Seasonic power supply. Please note, as part of the united effort to fight the coronavirus outbreak, we have removed all non-woven materials from our product packaging. These materials are important resources for the production of face masks and protective clothing worn by health workers and the general public. That's amazing! Holy cow, that's so cool! We apologize for the inconvenience and thank you for your understanding. Seasonic Electronics, March 2020. That's so cool! What a nice little gesture! I like that. Very cool. What else do we got? Enter for a chance to win a $50 Steam e-gift. Okay. Ooh, we got the user manual, which in some language is called a handbook. I suppose that's pronounced book, handbook. That would make sense. For the Prime TX, PX, and GX, Prime Fanless, Prime Snow Silent, and Prime Air Touch. So basically a general manual for all their power supplies. The installation guide. Probably be straightforward. What's this? Oh, they give you cable ties. Not only normal zip ties, but Seasonic branded Velcro ties. Oh, that's cool. Oh, and a little case badge powered by Seasonic. Ooh, this is so cool. I love it. Oh man, makes me wish I got a new case. Look at that. That's so neat. What's this? Got an IEC power cable and a, what the heck? A 20-pin thingamajig? What's this for? I have no idea. What is this thing? now I gotta look at the literature. I'm not as patient with literature as I used to be. There's no mention of whatever this is, but it's got 24 pins on it. Is it just a thing to cover to go over like the 24 pin connector? I have no idea. No clue. I will just set that here. Ooh, here's all the modular cables. Bags of modular cables. And then under here... Whoa! They put it in a little suede bag? Dude, this is too good for me. I am not worthy. Wow! Oh, it's actually not that heavy once you get all the other crap. Get it away from all the other crap. Dude! They put it in a giant egg bag, as Dank Pods would say. It's even got the Seasonic logo on. Look at that! What would this be for? you wouldn't be transporting your power supply. I guess it's just to make the experience that much better. Wow! This is like luxury. Hold on, let me get you in on this. Oh, it's got the little ties on it. A suede egg bag. Wow. There we go. Wow. What a nice little unit. You got all your modular connections for everything. There's the sticker. Toggle switch. And a hard power switch, which is nice. Look at that. What a nice looking unit. There's the fan. Big fan in this thing. And it's actually way smaller than the Sparkle Power unit. They've got hex screws holding it together. Wow. What a quality looking and feeling unit. I am not worthy. Holy cow. Alright, let me, I'll put my egg bag back in. I did not expect a power supply unboxing to be such a royal experience. Wow. Oh, I forgot a foam piece. That was unbelievable. I guess that's the difference you get when you buy a grade A power supply. Or tier A as they call it. Alright. Let's put this right here. I actually feel a little bad now that this wonderful power supply and that wonderful motherboard are going into such a crappy, unventilated 12-year-old case with plastic breaking all over the place. So I'm definitely going to get a new case someday. Maybe Christmas. Maybe when my tax return comes in. I don't know. Okay, we want this to go this way. Alright. There's our new power supply. Let me get the cooler off of the old motherboard. I gotta give it to the P6T. It's a damn cool looking motherboard. With the blue heat sinks on it. And just the whole color scheme. It's a really cool looking motherboard. Also excellently featured. If you come across one of these for cheap and you need a reasonably modern motherboard to build a PC with, these aren't a bad choice. They work with Windows 10. I have not tested Windows 11, but I wouldn't be surprised if Windows 11 also works. No major hardware issues. I've never had any major issues with it. And the fact that I've got two of them that still work tells me that it's a reasonably reliable motherboard too. Also powerful as hell. This thing is a super powerful motherboard, for my uses anyway. This computer in its original configuration was a powerhouse for me. Now, okay, so there is hardware on the back. I don't think I'll need the back plate to put this on the new motherboard. LGA 2011 apparently is way nicer for mounting coolers than the LGA 1000 series. No back plates or all these little parts or anything like that. Of course, the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo itself has kind of a fiddly design for mounting, but I figured it out on this motherboard, so I can figure it out on the on the new one too. Hey, we're off. Okay. Old motherboard. We won't be seeing this again, hopefully. Alright. Now our cooler. Zoom you in. This is a Video 8 camcorder controller. Remote, rather. And it still works on this DV camcorder. Also, at the risk of satirizing myself, I am 100% certain I'm going to break a nail before this video's over. Alright. That is that. I just happened to look at the thermometer. It is 59 degrees Fahrenheit in this apartment right now, which I'm comfortable because I'm busy doing stuff, but the frog probably isn't, so while the camera was off I ran a heater for a few minutes. Get my alcohol. Good stuff. And we'll just wipe that off. Not at all dry, very much still clay-like. Of course, I only put this cooler on a year and a half ago. I bought it because the original cooler that was on this motherboard sucked balls. Good enough. Good enough for government work. Alright. I've got the hardware all put in here. Let me grab... Yeah, I'm going to grab the cooler that I bought that I'm not going to be able to use on this build. I'm going to rub a fan on it, just see if I can... Whoops! Just see if I can get it on this heatsink. Here's one of the fans off the Fantex cooler. Spins nice. The metal brackets that it uses to fit on that cooler don't work on this cooler, so I'm going to have to disassemble this. And I'll just take one of them off, and we'll see if the Cooler Master's hardware fits it, because this isn't a perfectly square fan, is the only thing. So might not actually work, but let's see. Ah, no, it's not gonna fit. We cannot use this fan. It's not standard. It's a proprietary fan. Fine. Screw you, Fantex. I can't use your heatsink and I can't use your fans either. That's fine. Saves work for me. I'll just put this down here. Alright, that makes that easier. Okay, let me tidy up a little here, and we'll bring out the new motherboard. Alright, the Asus X99 Deluxe 2. Rated 3 eggs on newegg.com. Oh god. Alright. Ooh. I will set that aside for the moment. So we lift this, and I didn't even realize this until a long time after I got this in the mail, that there's so much underneath here. We got the user guide, which I'm sure I will absolutely need for all the alien technology that's on this board. We've got, what's this? Is this a quick start guide? Installation guide. Oh, it comes with a bracket to mount the M2 drive. I wondered, what kind of scary having an M2 drive just jutting out, waiting to get broken in two. But no, it comes with a metal bracket for it. Oh yeah, so All right, we'll take a look. We'll take a close-up look at the motherboard in a moment, but it's got some really alien stuff on it. And yeah, it shows all the different ways where like bandwidth is shared between the PCI Express slots and the M2 slot, and it's just nuts. I literally cannot wrap my head around this. Yeah, this I'll just have to learn as I go along, because this motherboard is so much more complex than anything I've ever owned. So we open up this part, and we have all the extra goodies. We have expansion slot covers, which is nice. Oh, and a little header thing for the activity LEDs and the buttons and stuff. Why is there a little header for it? I guess it's just a riser to rise the pins up. I guess. Oh, you know what? Oh, this is a great idea. I just realized what this is. It's so you can plug your cables into this little header, and then just plug the header all at once into the motherboard instead of having to fool around. Oh, that's very nice. That's excellent. That saves a lot of headache. This is the little fan module doodad, which I won't be putting in. So I'll put that in its little house. This has never been out of its, well, it might have been out of its package, but it's got some pretty new official factory looking Scotch tape on here. This is the Pikachu card, which again we won't be using in this build, but it's got a USB 3.1 port and 2 Pikachu 3 ports. Oh no, there's one. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I gave you guys some incorrect information earlier. It's got a USB 3.1 Type A port. It's got a Pikachu 3 port, which also serves as a USB 3 port. But then it says mini display port in. What? Does this have a video input on it? If it does, that's amazing. I could make so much use of that. What? Or is it... I don't understand. Mini display port in. Time to look at the manual again. Okay, that took way longer than it should have, because Asus made it about as unclear on their website as they do in the manual, but it's a pass-through. It's not like a video input. It's just a pass-through. So, of course, with Pikachu ports, they make Pikachu displays that you can plug into the port, and I think some of them even can be powered by the port, so like the old Apple displays from the early 2000s. And so this is a pass-through where the output of your graphics card goes into this input port, and then you can plug a Pikachu display into the Pikachu port, and then you have your display out that way. So that's what this is for, but we're not going to be using this. Next, the M2 card. It's called the Asus Hyper M2 X4 Mini. There's what it looks like. Got an M2 slot. It's got all the mounting points for any size of M2 card. Very nice. Again, we don't need this. I don't even own an M2 hard drive, or SSD rather. Actually, I do own one. It's in the ThinkPad T420S. And then, I thought they were cables. Oh, this might... Oh yes, this lifts out too. Ah yes, all sorts of SATA cables and right angle SATA cables. More SATA cables. This is a, this is a DisplayPort to mini DisplayPort cable. So if I was using that Pikachu card, they give you the cable to use it. Very nice. What else? Something with 5 pins on each end. This might be for CD-ROM audio? Maybe? I'll have to look in the manual. Even more SATA cables. Something with 10 pins on one end and 5 pins on another. I'll have to look that up. And then something that I don't know what the ends are because they're plugged into each other. And it's, oh, well, it was sealed, but it came open so easily I'll look at it anyway. Alright, what is this? Oh, it's the RGB cable! Ah! So, the RGB port on this thing must have individual controls of the red, green, and blue LEDs. Because there's a pin for each one, so you can like set your own colors and stuff, and it's all controlled right from the motherboard rather than from like a 5 1/4 inch bay that you have to put in or something. That's really cool. We obviously won't be using that. Oh, we got the CDs. We got the CD for the Pikachu card and the CD for the motherboard software. So we'll probably we'll go ahead and use that, which is nice. Okay, I need to look up what these 10-pin and 5-pin cables are. Okay, this cable is also for the Pikachu card, so we won't be using that. And this cable is for a fan. This is basically an extension cord for the fan if needed, so we probably won't need that. And then I just looked in the manual. This is supposed to come with thermistors, temperature sensors, so it knows how hot things are getting. But I don't think I got those. Unless they're... Oh, maybe it's under here. Okay, let me get this out of the way. Oh yes, we got more. Oh, we got an I/O shield. Yay, we got the thermistors! Okay! That's excellent! So I'm going to have to read the manual to see how to appropriately mount these. We'll take these out. Oh, it's got the Wi-Fi antenna! Cool! We won't be using it, but cool. There's the M2 bracket, and then this is the... Oh, it's the... Oh, this is the cover that would be on the CPU socket, since you would have bought this without a CPU in it. But this actually, mine already has a CPU in it, so we won't be needing this. And then what's this? Asus CPU installation tool. Okay. The CPU is already in it, so we don't need that. And then there's a ribbon cable. Ah, an SLI cable. Cool. We don't need it. Another thermistor. I'll take that. And looks like some screw hardware. I don't know if I'll need this, so I'll leave it for now. And this looks like M2 mounting hardware, so I'll leave this for now. Okay. Man, there's a lot of stuff going on in here. Holy cow. Unbelievable. Also unbelievable is I'm running out of tape again, which means we are 80 minutes of raw footage into this thing. An hour and 20 minutes. Holy cow. Alright, through the power of Handycam, here is the Asus X99 Deluxe 2 motherboard. It's a sharp looking piece of equipment. I'll tell you what. Got the heat sinks on there. Our CPU, if you don't remember from the last video, is a... I should actually put this on the anti-static bag. There. Our CPU is an Intel Core i7 5960X. How beast is that in the grand scheme of 5th generation Core i7s? I don't know. Although I know anything with an X ought to be pretty good. It's 3 gigahertz base clock. LGA 2011 V3. And we've got 8 DDR4 slots with 32 gigs of RAM installed. I thought the 24 gigs on the old motherboard was nuts. This is even more nuts. It's crazy. So what else do we got? We got all our PCI Express slots, which are all different in terms of the bandwidth they share and stuff like that. I'm going to have to look at the manual if I want to know a lot about it. There's the Crystal Sound. I wonder if those are the Japanese capacitors. Can we see a brand name on them? Nishikon! There you go! Can't argue with that. And then look at this, we've got onboard power and reset switches, which isn't new to me. The P6T has that too. We have AFAP, AAFP. Well, that might be for the Pikachu card actually. Or maybe this 4-pin header is for the Pikachu card. I forget already. I'll have to look at the manual. LED status display, that's really cool. I'm definitely going to be getting a new case someday. If this all works out today and this motherboard works and stuff, I'll have to get a new case to display it in. Computers look too cool on the inside now to not have a transparent case. That's the clear CMOS button. Q code is referring to the LED display. The manual lists a bunch of codes that are called Q codes. That's for the Pikachu card, I think. And then this, I think, is the front panel header. That's for the... I think these are for the Pikachu card. I think that's an internal USB port, so that'll work for the card reader that I'm going to put in place of the floppy drive. Oh, it's only got one? Does this only have one internal USB port? Oh, shucks. Really? Oh, I think that might be it. That kind of sucks. Shoot. Because the front panel USB ports on this case, as well as the front panel audio, which I think I might just not connect, but they use these connectors, and the card reader uses one. So how do they expect you to deal if you have more than one internal USB device? Maybe I'm reading this wrong. I'll have to look at the manual. Oh, and I am out of tape on the other camcorder. There's the SLI switch. You need to flip that switch for if you're using 2 or 3 expansion cards. So I have it set just for 1. Sorry, I should clarify, going back to the internal USB ports. We have 2 internal USB 3 ports, but only 1 internal USB 2 port. So I need to figure out if there's a way around that. And then there's jumpers here I'm going to have to look at. Oh, this is the header for the buttons, front panel buttons and LEDs. So what is this? I don't think it's anything I need to worry about, but I'll look at that anyhow. We've got SATA. We've got this weird thing. I forget what it's even called, and I don't even know what it's for, what you'd use it for. It's got two of the darn things. There's the other one. Our M2 slot. Look at all of these SATA ports. Holy cow. What is that? What's that little thing? Is that a new type of SATA port? I don't know. I'm going to have to look at the manual. Fan connector. Power. A memo K button, which you apparently press if the computer doesn't boot up for some reason, and it'll like examine the RAM and then set itself to settings like clock settings and stuff so that it works with whatever RAM you've got in it. 2 onboard auxiliary power, the classic 4-pin, and then an 8-pin, which the Asus P6T has an 8-pin too, which I didn't even know. When I first bought my power supply, and when I first got this motherboard out and saw that it uses an 8-pin and a 4-pin, I'm like, oh crap, does my power supply have all the cables needed to hook into this? But I think it does. And then we've got more fan connectors. More fan connectors. I'm going to have to read if there's a specific one that should be used. A water pump connector. So if I had liquid cooling, there's the power for the liquid cooler. Very cool. Pardon the pun. And then back when I first got this motherboard, I actually tested that clock battery and it's actually dead, so I gotta pull that. I'll pull the one off the old motherboard and stick it in. Yeah. And yeah, so lots of stuff that I have no knowledge of because I've been playing with old computers all my life. So let me put a fresh tape in the other camcorder. Give me a few minutes to look at the manual and then we'll come back. Okay, pardon the noise. I've got the heater running again because it's now 58 degrees in here. And while he's doing just fine, I don't want him to get too cold regardless. So I figured all this out. This is the front panel audio, so it looks like a USB, which confused me a little bit because I'm like, wait, does this have a audio codec on the front panel? No. So this connector goes into there for the front panel audio. The USB 1 connector is just a USB 1 connector, so I'm going to have to see if maybe there's an adapter to let you adapt one of these internal USB 3 connectors to a USB, I'm calling it USB 1, but I assume it's USB 2, but adapt this into this, because if I plug my front panel USB ports into this, I can't plug that card reader into it. Now of course the card reader has its own USB port, but also the card reader's 15 friggin' years old and might not even work with Windows 10. It might just screw everything up. I don't know. I'll deal with this later. That's for the Pikachu card. That's your SPDIF, so we're not going to be using that. Front panel connections. This is set for a single GPU. This is a memory over voltage switch if you want to control the voltage of the RAM. I just have it disabled. This set of pins with the jumper on it is the CPU over voltage enable. I have it disabled. Those two pins are for something called direct key, which I didn't read through to explain what that is, but it's something to do with a special button on the case. We don't have it, so I have it disabled. So these are apparently called SATA Express slots, and it's just a new standard for connecting high-end SSDs. So obviously we won't use those. This is called a U2 port, and it's another standard for connecting SSDs, and obviously we won't be using that either. Wow, a lot of crazy stuff on this motherboard. Honest to God, like, if this motherboard works and keeps working, it's gonna keep me, like, it's gonna be fine for me for at least 10 years. like the amount of power this is going to have and all the crazy high-tech modern stuff on it, it's just, this motherboard's going to last me forever as long as it keeps working, which I hope it does. Alright, well that was fun. Let's put the cooler in on this. I've got my new clock battery, so I'll put that in. I think it goes in this away. Like that. And this is my last mini DV tape. I mean, I've got dozens of them, but they have footage on them I've got to archive for the TV station. So once this tape runs out, I'm going to have to dig out the data video and a FireWire cable, hook this camcorder up via FireWire, and record directly onto the data video. Oh, which is going to be a little sketchy. Anyhow, right, our cooler. So this is going to go like this, and I need to look at the manual for the cooler so I do it right, because we want to do it right. Also, I got to remember to put my thermal paste on before I put the cooler on. Alright, so LGA 2011. I like how they, when they show putting the thermal paste on, it's just awful. Like, it shows like friggin' like putting a pile of thermal paste on. It's funny, in the little pictogram, they show this as having markings labeled Intel and AMD, but the actual thing doesn't. It just has markings 1, 2, and 3. Well, first I gotta put in the mounting posts, which are these guys. Okay, I'm in a little pickle, I think, because the mounting hardware is not 11/32, and it's not 3/8. Cool! Alright, let me think. This is proper computer building, right? Every computer builder needs a crescent wrench in their arsenal. It'd be way easy to over tighten these using a big wrench like this, so I'm just gonna make them a little tight. There. A little tight. Probably get 100 dislikes on this video just for that stunt alone. Wow, the CPU is so big. Oh no, I have this. The CPU is so big, the mounting, the contact pad on the cooler doesn't even fit the whole surface area, which is nuts. Yeah, and then it just mounts on like that. Okay. Heatsink paste. The stuff that came with my cooler. The Cooler Master Gel Pro. If I didn't have enough of this, which I think I do, I was going to buy some Arctic Silver. That's the standard everyone uses. Shadow recommended Cooler Master Gel Maker, which I guess is like their super high-end cooling stuff. I don't care. This is gonna be fine. I will do something he recommended though, and a lot of other people recommend now, is I used to just put a dab in the center, but I will put a little X shape. And I never know how much to put, so I'm just gonna put what feels like enough, which is that. How did I do? Let me know in the comments. Okay. Alright, here goes nothing. We are gonna set the coolie boy down. Make sure it's even. Nope, that was so uneven. I am ashamed of myself. It's hard to tell, man. It's hard to get a good visual. There. That's where it's supposed to be. And I'm just going to lift it and look. Yeah, that'll work. It wouldn't be me doing this if I didn't do a cringily bad job at doing it. Just gonna hand tighten the threads down. Get my screwdriver. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. That's tight. Wiggle test. Wiggles a little bit, but of course there's still heatsink compound settling in. Alright. Maybe I'll give one more little tight down. Alright. Cooler's on. Cooler is on. And I will put our fan on. Just like that. And then the fan goes into one of the plugs up here. We will use this one. I'm gonna flip the fan around. Get the wire on the right side. And it's no huge deal. If it turns out I didn't put enough compound or something, I mean, we'll see it in the cooling numbers. And if I have to take the heatsink off again, easy to do. Don't have to take the motherboard out to do it. Unlike with the old motherboard, LGA 2011 makes this a lot easier. Alright, fan plugs in right there. So we've got our CPU and cooler. We've already got RAM installed. Let's put it in the case. So let me rearrange some stuff, and then we'll do that. Okay. We're in! Woohoo! Alright. I love it. Oh my goodness, we are... It's 8:15. I started at 5. We are 3¼ hours into this. And almost 2 hours of raw footage that I'm gonna have to edit. Okay. Let me put the screws for the motherboard in, and then we'll come back. Alright, I've got the motherboard screwed in. I've plugged in my front panel USB and front panel audio. I've also wired all the buttons and LEDs into this block, which makes it very nice and easy to do. And the whole block just plugs in there. Easy peasy. Okay. Gosh, what should I do next? This is actually starting to come together now. Oh no, I am running out of tape once again. Might be time to dig out the data video. Yeah, let me... Oh, I gotta do power too. Okay, let's dig into the power supply cables here. So there is the motherboard cable. That plugs into this connector and this connector. Snaps in, very nice. And then this goes this way. Obviously, cable management will be a must. Alright, motherboard is wired into the power supply. There, I'll just shove my cables under the optical drive, that'll work. And then there's two auxiliary motherboard power connectors, an 8-pin and a 4-pin. So there's something with two 4-pins. Here's something also with two 4-pins. Maybe you just put two 4-pins together for an 8-pin. I'll figure this out and deal with my out of tape situation, and then we'll come back. Alright, it's like an hour later, and I decided to just finish everything off camera because it's like 9 o'clock. What time is it? It's at least 9. Oh my god, it's 9:45. It's getting late. I have now been at this for almost 6 hours. Woo! And you guys have been along for most of it. But yeah, I've got everything plugged into the power supply. There was an attempt at cable management. Graphics card is in. This fan and this fan I don't have hooked up right now because I kind of just soldered power to them, so I don't think the fan controller would work correctly with them anyway. Actually, this one's got... Oh yeah, this one's still got its... This one's got a 3-pin connector. So I don't know if I can plug it into the motherboard or if the motherboard would run it correctly or not. That's something to look at after I verify that everything else is working. I also haven't plugged in one of the temperature sensors yet. It's not necessary. You wouldn't use it for the CPU. It can already detect the CPU's temperature, but you'd use it for something like a hard drive or some other peripheral that you want to monitor the temperature of. Maybe the power supply. Actually, the power supply is probably a great use for it. And stuff like that. But again, I've just left that unplugged for now. I've got the SSD in. I've got Greg all wired up. My DVD drive all wired up. I'm just keeping the floppy drive in there for now to fill the hole. My fan controller that I bought when I first got this computer, that's not hooked up. But I think it's time to test, which I'm very nervous about. So let me bring this thing over to the desk and switch camcorders, and we'll see what the heck happens when we plug this in. It is now 11 o'clock at night. I started this video at 4 in the afternoon. I just finished giving myself some time to eat. And I have the computer plugged in now. I've got everything, all the peripherals plugged in. I am going to cross my fingers harder than I've ever crossed them, and we're going to power this thing on and see if it works. I'll start by turning the switch on the power supply on once I find it. Okay, power button. Do we have video? Come on. Uh-oh. Oh. Hey! Alright! Woohoo! Man, that scared me for a minute there. I'm like, oh no. What do we got? It sees all the drives. Sees one keyboard and 2 mice. Alrighty then. 3 gigahertz. Please enter setup to recover BIOS setting when RAID configuration was built. Ensure to set data configuration to RAID mode. Okay, let's hit F1. Oh my god. Wow, this BIOS is beautiful! And it's mouse driven. Holy cow. Wow. BIOS version 1802, so maybe 2018. CPU temperature looks good. I don't hear, obviously the CPU fan's running slowly. I don't hear a power supply fan. Oh my god, I can't believe it turned on. And everything's working? This is excellent. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to play around in this, obviously. Look at these voltages. Just about spot on. Another reason I replaced the power supply was because on the old power supply, the 12 volts was sitting at like 11.1, 11.2, which is like below what's considered the safe range. And this one's sitting at between 11.9 and 12.0, so that's perfect. So I'm just going through all the settings here. There's some more stuff to look at. Oh, it's only seeing 8 gigs of RAM. Why is that? I'll have to investigate that. Oh my god, look at what this thing does when it's turned off. I didn't even know there were LEDs in there. Holy cow, that looks amazing. Oh my god, I really need to get a new case. Get a new case and then rearrange my whole desk to put the computer on the other side. Wow, I am sad I'm going to be missing that. I just reseated the RAM. I'll turn it on here and oh, that's kind of neat, huh? It's showing all the power on self-test steps, I guess. That's neat. Alright, I hope it sees... It still only sees 8 gigs of RAM. Why is that? Oh, I'm gonna have to start booting with only some sticks in it then. Alright, welcome back again. It is now 10 minutes after 1 in the morning. After mucho troubleshooting, it was a bad stick of RAM. I now have this working with 24 gigs, which is just fine. It's what I had in the last motherboard. But well, that sucks. Bad stick of RAM. Not a very old stick of RAM. 2014 is the date code on the PCB. But yeah, bad stick of RAM. That sucks. I'm sure having 3 sticks instead of 4 has lost me some efficiency due to lack of dual channel, if that's still a thing. Maybe it isn't anymore, but anyhow, I will have to ask Shadow if he can send me another stick of RAM, and then we'll get this thing back up to the 32 that he intended when he sent the motherboard to me. But it's working just fine for now with 24 gigs. As you can probably see, I am currently installing Windows 10. I am not going to use Windows 11 yet. I still want it to gel for a while before I move on to that. So it'll probably be, I mean, how I feel right now, probably another year or two before I, oh wow, it's done already. Probably another year or two before I go to Windows 11. But maybe, you know, I've surprised myself before with how quickly I'm willing to try something else. So maybe it won't be that long. But for now, I'm putting Windows 10 on it. And it's about to boot for the first time. Oh, by the way, this really surprised me. It turns out this new motherboard has the exact same RAID controller as the old one did. I thought maybe in 7 years between the two motherboards, or 5 years, or whatever the difference is, that there would be sort of an update in RAID controller technology from Intel. Nope, this has the exact same Intel rapid storage technology RAID controller as the old motherboard, and it literally detected Greg. I didn't have to format Greg or anything. It just saw Greg and all the data was intact, which is amazing. I couldn't believe it. I turned this thing on, and in the when the RAID controller initialized, it just said Greg 2 in the list of drives. I'm like, holy crap. But I'm going to give them a format anyway. At the very least, because, of course, there's now some metadata on the drives from the old Windows installation, because I had a program files folder on there, and yeah, I just want to make it clean. So I'll do that. But that was really impressive anyway, that it I made such a big fuss to myself about having to break the RAID array and back up all the data and stuff, when literally the new motherboard just drop in saw the RAID array just fine, because the RAID controller itself never changed. So that was kind of funny. But I suppose I should put the cover back on, which is kind of sad, because I'm really liking the lighting effects. I'm liking the Q code display. I'm definitely going to have to get a new case for this thing. This case kind of sucks anyway. Bad ventilation, really crappy toolless hardware. And obviously you can't see into it, so that'll be something in the future that I will get. Alright, it's the next day, and everything is pretty much done. The Windows installation and installing all the drivers and everything went without a hitch. I'm just transferring the data from my Greg backup to Greg, which I thought should get a new name upgrade, so it's now Greg 2.5, because it's the same drives, but a new motherboard, new RAID controller, although the RAID controller is the same as in the old motherboard. But anyhow, yeah, everything's working great. Super quiet. Obviously the CPU fan is the same, and the GPU fans, but that new power supply fan, way quieter than the one on the Sparkle power supply. Speaking of power, I did some measurements with the kilowatt meter. So with this new motherboard, with that much more powerful CPU, we'll see how much more powerful in a few moments. Something I didn't realize, this is an octa-core CPU, which I did not know. I assumed it was quad-core. But no, the 5960X, which I guess I shouldn't be surprised, octa-core CPU, which is amazing. So I was not going to be surprised if it used way more power than the hexa-core Xeon 2.4 gigahertz on the old motherboard. So with the old system, idle power was about 200 watts from the wall. Full tilt about 550 watts. This new motherboard, 180 watts idle. And I haven't seen it get higher than 450 watts full tilt. That's amazing! So not only is it way more powerful, but it's way more efficient. Way more efficient. That might be because the CPU, which is a few years newer, is more efficient. Or maybe it's because the power supply is way more efficient. Or it could be a combination. But this computer is way more power efficient now, which is great. at the same time being way more powerful. So I am very happy. So how much more powerful are we talking? Well, let's look at the specs of the old system. There they are. And I ran performance test earlier today. Let's take a look at the scores from the new system. Look at that. The CPU score has almost doubled. 2D graphics has doubled. 3D graphics is a little higher. Memory mark is quite a bit higher. And disk is actually a little lower, so that SSD might just be a little slower than the old one. And look at that score, an increase of 1,600 points from the 45th percentile to the 61st percentile. CPU went from the, what's that say? I think that says the 52nd percentile to the 65th. Wow! That huge jump in CPU power, that's amazing. So yeah, way more powerful system. I am super excited to have this now. So much more power, and it's going to be better on the electric bill. That's pretty great. What kind of sucks is, of course, as I mentioned in the beginning of all this new motherboard, not a great track record for reliability. Now I'm hoping that where mine is several years old and it's working right now, that maybe it got past any quality control issues and mine's going to be one of the lucky ones that keeps working long term. I really hope it does, because the performance is amazing. I really love the lighting effects, even though with this current case I can't view them. But I really hope it keeps working, especially because I did some research just to see, I figured worst case scenario, God forbid the motherboard goes bad, I've still got a good CPU, DDR4 RAM, I just need to get another X99 motherboard. Well, unfortunately, not very many X99 motherboards were made. It was very much sort of a redheaded stepchild of the Intel chipsets, just because it was like a top-end, gamer tier chipset that did, a lot of X99 motherboards did have reliability issues, and so there just weren't that many of them made. But you can still buy them, but you will pay minimum here in Canada $300 or $400 for a new one. I looked on eBay, and I can get a used one for under 200, not far under 200, and that was for one that was sort of a, not gamer-oriented board, just sort of more workstation-oriented, so there was no RGB or anything like that. Not that that's terribly important. Yeah, but still, that's still way more money than I thought I might pay for a motherboard based on a 7-year-old, 8-year-old chipset design. But that's just what I'm gonna have to do. It's either that, or if the motherboard goes bad in this, sell the CPU and just get a new motherboard based on a different chipset and a new CPU to go with it. But I think that would even be way more expensive if I want to get something that has even remotely the same amount of CPU power as this has. So I'm going to cross my fingers. I actually let this thing fold last night, and it did just fine. I've had no issues, no blue screens of death, no weird behavior, no anything. This has been running 100% wonderfully perfect. All except for that one bad stick of RAM, this has been a 100% flawless experience, which I'm very happy with. So I hope this motherboard keeps working for years to come. Like I said before, this is going to keep me going for at least 10 years. If I never get a hold of anything better, I won't need to. There is so much computing power at my disposal now. considering 2 years ago I was perfectly happy with a Core 2 quad and a NVIDIA GT 730 video card. So I am not going to be wanting for more performance for a very, very long time. Something I am going to be wanting a little for, though, is a new case. I'd really love to get a case that has a, you know, a transparent side panel so you can see all those cool effects. Plus it's just cool to see inside of a computer anyway. I've always loved transparent cases, although I've never owned a single one. Plus, I'm just not enchanted with this case. It's a good quality case, made of pretty thick metal, pretty heavy. It just doesn't look that great. It's very uninteresting. It's a very Spartan case. Plus, the front panel USB is based on USB 2 instead of USB 3. And the plastic parts for the toolless drive removal, they break. Some piece of plastic flies out every time you do something. And yeah, it's just not a very interesting case. So what I do actually want to do is get a new case and then rearrange this whole desk setup so that my computer is over here. I'll show you two cases that I've been looking at. One case that I should get, and then a case that I really want to get. The case that I should get is this Fractal Design Focus G. $70 plus 13, so $83 shipped from Newegg here in Canada. This is the one I should get because it's the cheaper option, and it looks nice. It's got some fans with LEDs on them. My criteria is that it has to have at least 3.5 inch internal bays because it has to hold Greg and an SSD on top of that, plus at least two 5.25 inch external drive bays. It's hard to come across drive bays now in cases, new cases, at least the cheaper ones. They just don't have any external drive bays, which makes sense, but for me, I definitely want that versatility. So anyway, it's fine. It's got really good ventilation on the front. I forget what it's got, if it's got anything decent for the sides or bottom. Power supply mounts on the bottom, and I see it's got some ventage on the bottom, but I don't know if it would be very much. Yeah, it's got ventage on the bottom, so that's good. Because that power supply, like, when I get this thing loaded up, it doesn't take long for that power supply's fan to start ramping up. It's choking trying to keep itself cool because it's just sucking on hot air from inside the case. So these new cases that mount the power supply on the bottom, really good idea, and I think I really want to do that and should have a case that can do that if I want that power supply to have its best chance at outliving its warranty. The top of the case is vented too, so this is a good case ventilation wise, and it's not that expensive. Now the case I really want to get is this one, the Cougar Panzer Max. $190 plus 20, so $210 shipped here in Canada. I really love the looks of this one. I think it looks excellent. The side panel looks like it's kind of smoked instead of perfectly transparent. What's this one looks like? This one, at least in the marketing photos, looks perfectly transparent, whereas this one looks a little smoked, but that's fine. You look at the customer photos, and it just looks amazing still. 360 view. The other side is utilized too. You've got hard drive bays on the opposite side of the case. Bottom mounted power supply. Got vents on the bottom, so the power supply is definitely going to be vented well. And I guess it won't let me go up and down. 4 USB ports on the front and front panel audio, which is nice. And then really nice top ventilation. Here's the customer photo. Really nice top ventilation here. And there's a panel that goes over that. Because if I really had some disposable income, I'd switch out for liquid cooling too. Not because liquid cooling is necessarily better. That's debatable and depends greatly on the situation, but it's definitely more interesting. But this case has really good opportunity for a good liquid cooling setup. So yeah, and also I think it just looks friggin' awesome. And again, it's got the two 5 1/4 inch bays, really good front ventilation. And yeah, so the case I really want, and the case that I should get because it's less than half the price. But anyway, that's just what I'm looking at. For now, I'll deal with what I've got, and I'll evaluate if I find myself really itching for something new. Probably give it at least a few months to, you know, really get to know this motherboard and make sure it's going to be reliable in the long term. But that's it. That's we've been at this for, I must have almost 2 hours of raw footage at this point that I'm going to edit. But we did it. We switched out the old Asus P6T motherboard in my PC with Asus X99 Deluxe 2 from a 2.4 gigahertz hexa-core Xeon based on a first generation core to a 5th generation Core i7 octa-core 3 gigahertz from DDR3 to DDR4 RAM, and from that 12-year-old Sparkle Power Magna 1200 to a brand new Seasonic Prime GX750 with a 12-year warranty. I'm really happy. I'm going to have the peace of mind of having a good quality power supply that I don't have to worry about. Like I said earlier, you can skimp on anything you want in a computer, but you shouldn't ever skimp on the power supply. That's my opinion. And of course, once again, floppy drive's just here to fill in the hole, because I forget where I put the panel that goes in its place, but I'm going to have to do something to fill that gap. Maybe I'll get a 5 1/4 inch bay that has front panel USB that fits into one of the internal USB 3 ports. I don't know. And then another thing I got to figure out is FireWire. I would like to have FireWire on this computer because we're not going to have videotape transfer live streams unless I can make that happen. I need that for you guys to see the incoming video. But for now, that is it. If you are still watching this after all this time, I really appreciate it. Thank you for accompanying me on this journey. We got her done. It took an entire day, but we got it done, and I could not be happier. Very happy. It was a pretty darn smooth transition, for sure. And I got to thank my Patreon supporters, these guys whose names you see scrolling up now. Their support helps me afford stuff like the purchase of this motherboard. So to them and to everybody else watching, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed. And I will see you in the videos to come.